Thinking about COVID in the context of the sustainability agenda made me think a little bit about the boiled frog phenomenon. And many of you are probably familiar with the phenomenon. The hypothesis is that if you throw a frog into boiling water, he or she will immediately jump out because they don't like the hot temperature. But if you put a frog in a cool pan of water and you turn on the heat and slowly cook the frog never jumps out and perishes in the hot water. So if you get an instantaneous shock, you jump away. But if it's slow incremental change, you don't react in time and you perish. And so I think when we look at COVID, what we see is we got a rapid shock that in a very short period of time, the entire world was shaken by the arrival of this virus, by the impact of the virus, by the rate of the spread of the virus, and we got fairly instantaneous response that we had shutdowns all around the world within a short period of time. The 3 vaccines that have been announced within the last few weeks are considered to be stunning records in terms of the time it took to develop these vaccines that historically people think it takes years, and in months, literally, these vaccines have been developed and tested. So we were thrown in the hot water, and we immediately reacted. Although obviously we're still in most countries not quite like New Zealand where things are back to normal, there's a view that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel because of the vaccines and hopefully because of the political change in the United States that we're looking forward to. We will soon see a reversal of some of these trends. And so we see that humanity has reacted fairly quickly. Now, what about climate change? Well, climate change is obviously, that's like the slow boiling of the frog, right? That there is no rapid, sudden shock to the system, but rather very, very slowly the temperature's been turned up on us. And as mentioned earlier by Dr. Green, we haven't responded very well to that. That is, we don't see that humanity has made the important changes that are required to stem the tide and to reverse the trends that we've created with putting carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. So are we going to end up like the slowly boiled frog? Well, and can COVID help? So I actually think COVID has had an impact in the way people think about attacking climate change. So on the one hand, I think COVID has given the world on a global scale a realization that we need to act as a global community sometimes, that there are some things that come to the fore that cannot be ignored, that must be addressed. And I think people have been awakened to social issues, environmental issues, to a greater degree, partly triggered by the COVID crisis. So in that sense, I think we have more people around the world with greater awareness that we have to spend more time, more effort, and more resources on addressing our environmental needs and particularly climate change. So we have this social justice movement that maybe has was not needed to be awakened, but has been stimulated and catalyzed to be more aggressive and more activist. So I think that's the good news. What's the bad news? I think the bad news is we see that humans don't take to change very easily. That although I said people jumped to the fore and reacted very quickly to the urgency of the COVID crisis, we also see there's a significant number of people who don't have very much willingness to change. You know what? We have COVID deniers around the world. It's just the flu. It's not a big deal. The death rate's not that big a deal, worse than flu. We have people say, I don't want to change my behavior. And so we do see a significant, not clear yet whether it's minority or a majority, that are not going to be willing to change their lifestyles very much to deal with crises in the world. So that's a bit of a pessimistic message that we see that many people, even in reaction to the rapid boiling water, have said, I don't need to change my behavior. And given that climate change requires behavioral changes over a long term, that it's not just going to be, so with COVID, we can tell people if you can just be patient for a year or a few more months while the virus is distributed, then you can go back to your normal behaviors. Well, we can't tell people that with climate change. We can't tell people, well, just start burning carbon for a year and then you go back to your habits a year from now, that everything will be better. Rather, with climate change, we have to tell people you have to change your behavior for the rest of your life and your children's lives and your children's children's lives. And that's much, much more difficult. So what do we do? How do we, and what do business schools do? So obviously business schools aren't going to solve this whole problem. No single institution is going to make a dent without a lot of global cooperation. But in our curriculum at the Asia School of Business, we have tried to emphasize the importance of social responsibility, and we sort of break the world of education into three pieces, which I'll call smart skills, sharp skills, and action learning. That smart skills, which used to be called soft skills, but we don't think they're soft, are skills to be smart in organizations. How can I be effective working with people? How can I be effective working in organizations? What are the political skills I need? What are the team working skills I need? What are the leadership skills I need? We think these are critical and need a high level of emphasis. So you need the smart skills. You also need the sharp skills, the analytical skills, the skills, the ability to respect science, read science, understand science, and engage in science with regard to understanding data, understanding cause and effect, and understanding how to interpret what we see in the world analytically. So we need the smart skills for organization and change. We need the sharp skills for analysis, and we need action learning. Action learning is the skills of not just learning in the classroom, but putting these skills into action to bring about change in organizations. And so we spend our time at the Asia School of Business roughly a third on smart skills, sharp skills, and learning to put ideas into action. And that's the way we're trying to help our students understand and think about how they can be effective in contributing to the challenges of sustainability. Thank you. So at the Asia School of Business, we think of traditional business school education as being focused more on classroom learning. And as I mentioned, we spend a third of our students spend about a third of their time working on projects with companies or other organizations. And we use that action learning as a way for students to engage with real problem solving and addressing challenges that they get exposed to. More and more of our students are choosing to work on projects that relate to the environment, that relate to sustainability, and so I would say, in some sense, it's not a radical change. That is, we still teach finance and accounting and marketing and organizational behavior and entrepreneurship. So in that sense, what goes on in the classroom is not so different, but we try to bring it into action much more quickly and enable students to apply those ideas with greater frequency and greater intensity to the issues of the day, which include the sustainability issues that we're talking about. We've had recycling, projects on waste to energy, projects on electric vehicle infrastructure as some examples where students were interested in the sustainability angle in each of those cases. So we actually are moving into a new building this month.
Wow.
We have we were in temporary quarters, and our new building is now completed, and so we have the opportunity to start from scratch, if you will, to try to build a community and a campus that has effective recycling, effective minimal use of waste and materials, and we're working out the policies now for when we move in by, we hope, early December. So all I can state is promise now as we move into our new quarters. So thank you. So, well, in fact, so only about a third of our students are Malaysian. The other two-thirds come from all over the world. So we have perspectives from quite a globally broad set of students. But I would say when you ask what's the level of awareness of our students about environmental and sustainability issues, the answer is it's very, very high. In fact, I think they are change agents for us, for the faculty and administration, as much as we are change agents for them. So they want more courses. They want more, as I mentioned, they want projects that relate to sustainability, and some of them source their own, but they also want more courses in sustainability. So roughly half of our courses are taught by our faculty here in Malaysia, and half of our courses are taught by MIT faculty. We have a relatively small faculty here in Malaysia, maybe about 20, but MIT has many, many more faculty, and the students are constantly telling us we want more of the environmental and sustainability courses from MIT, and so we try to source a mix of courses that they're interested in. So I would say the awareness level is high, the interest level is high. I think young people are keenly aware that they are going to be dramatically affected in their lifetimes by phenomena like climate change, and they're deeply interested in what they can do and how they can make a difference. Yeah, that's been a painful process. So right now, none of our foreign students are allowed in the country because Malaysia is still on a partial lockdown. So since September, we've been teaching, well, actually since last March, we've been teaching digitally. So for a while, we taught in hybrid mode. In the spring, we were in hybrid mode for a little while. Then we were all digital. Then we started up early this semester in hybrid mode again. Then we had to go back to all digital. So our foreign students are spread over 13 different time zones. And so we're challenged to schedule courses when all of our students can be in attendance. We try to make as much live as possible so they don't have to watch recordings. But it's been a challenge to stay connected to all of our foreign students since COVID. We're hoping the borders might open up after January, and we'll be able to have our students face to face, but obviously nobody knows for sure. So right now, like many other places around the world, we're in digital mode as a result of the situation.
Right, and action learning aspect is ongoing.
Yeah, so we managed to, in the middle of last semester, last February and March, we were halfway done with a bunch of action learning projects, and we completed them in digital mode. In the summer, all of our students had digital action learning projects. A few of them had live projects back in their home countries. Most of them were digital, and then we started with a slate of digital action learning projects this fall. Fortunately, our partner companies have been very receptive. They want to figure out how to engage digitally. So we have teams of students engaging with teams of people from these companies on the projects, but all the communication is through distance communication. So obviously we hope we can have some more face-to-face learning in 2021. But in the meantime, we have continued our action learning projects in digital mode. Well, so one key takeaway is it is possible to do these projects and to continue the learning and continue the value added in the projects in digital mode. Another observation is, but it's a lot harder. That we have teams of students that are spread across multiple time zones that have to try to find time to work together. Some of our students, if they're 12 time zones away and they're working on a project with a company here in Malaysia, then they have the challenge of time zone differences as well. So it's doable, but it's harder. Students are learning differently on how to collaborate, how to deal with conflict on teams, etc. But it's I don't think it's easy, and I think the quality of learning, the learning is different, right? The learning is more how to cope with this environment, and less so there's more energy required to cope with the environment, maybe a little less energy therefore available to work on the problem at hand that the company wanted to work on. Yes, I think that's a really important question. Uh, and our philosophy in action learning is sort of the same philosophy that some people use in teaching their children how to swim. You just throw them in the deep water, and they teach themselves and they flail. And so in some sense, our action learning projects work that way. In that the very first month they arrive on campus, we throw them in a team of people. You might have 5 people from 5 different continents working on a project in a country they've never been to before, and they may not speak the local language. And we tell them, okay, work on this problem together, and they flail, and and they spend a week or two at the company, and then they come back, and we coach them. We help them think through what they're learning. We give them the theory, if you will, in the classroom. So they have a few weeks of classes, and then we send them back and throw them in the water again. And this time, maybe they know a little bit better how to breathe. We just cycle. So they build what I call the SMART skills. That is the organizational teamwork skills, and they learn and they look for ways to apply their analytical skills in the context. But it's really learning by doing, and trial by fire. The first semester they're stressed, they have a hard time, but we can see the progress from first semester to second semester to third semester. They do become more skilled, they become more sophisticated, they become more efficient and more effective, and so the learning by doing seems to work. And so that's the philosophy that we've taken, for better or worse.